So I haven't got any notes to upload, so that's I'll set it up. I'm Alison, I'm from Queensland. I was in Barnwell, Queensland, in famous table and lets, and I moved to Brisbane. I've been in Brisbane the last 5 or so years in Brislets. So some of my things that I'm talking about really comes from 25 years experience in Barnwell, Queensland. And I actually would like to, because I've got a very short time, I'm going to speak very fast. I'm good at that. And I'm going to jump to my more contentious discussion issue first, and then I'll go see what time I've got left for just a few ideas that might be relevant here for building up trading and for every group thinking about, we're always looking for how to get more trading activity, more members. So, but starting off, there's something completely random. I would love to have had time to actually play this game with you, but I haven't got time to do that, so I'm going to describe it to you because you might find a scenario where you want to do it yourself. My sister developed this game, and it's been very useful for situations where you meet a group that looks like they really could benefit from joining Let's, because maybe they're already doing a plant swap, or they're already running an anti-poverty network, or they're doing something where, if only they knew what we have, they could apply it to their own system, and they could just jump on board and use our accounting, and we know that. So she developed this game, very simple. So to start with, you prepare at home some cards, trading cards, one set for offers and one set for wants. And this is rather fun because you can go think of the most innovative left field offers that you've ever come across, browse the net for other exchanges and think of all the most interesting offers or trading opportunities and put them all on the card. So you have the offer, you have a matching want. So, I want a ticket on a sailing ship, and you have, I'm offering tickets on a sailing ship, so you've got 2 sets of cards that match. Then when you get to your game scenario, shuffle the wants, hand them out, shuffle them, well, you first of all work out you've got the right numbers, so everyone has 1 trade each, 1 want and 1 offer each. Hand out. And so each person in the room is holding 1 card for an offer and 1 card for a want, and they don't match. And then you simply explain to people how it's going to work. Everything's worth 200 units. My sister, her name's Janet Bishop, she's in Condamine Catchment Community Exchange, west of Brisbane. So Janet decided, pick a number, 200 Let's units. That lets people know we're serious here. We're not just playing around with under 10 units, because sometimes trades are quite valuable. So she just said, everything for the game, simplify it, they're all going to be simple. So everything's worth 200 units. And you explain to people, and you might pick somebody in the front row who's going to stand up and get the ball rolling, and they stand up and they have to say, well, I want a ticket on a sailing ship, is there anybody? And so the person in the room who's got the offer says, yeah, I can give you that, so they do the trade. Then you have a pile of credits and debits here which you've made up, green slips which say plus 100 and white slips which say 200. And so the buyer and the seller come and grab the relevant thing, and they go and sit down. And you do that a couple of times till everybody's got the idea, then you say, go for it, free for all, and it's really fun, because everybody's wandering around trying to say, who can clean my aquarium, and, has anybody here got tomatoes, or I'm trying to get rid of my DVD collection, and so they find the person with the matching card, they all pick up the relevant piece, and they go and sit down. Then and it doesn't take very long, you simply the punchline of the story is you say to everybody, notice that you all started with a balance of 0, and what happened? You had 2 trades, you sold something, you earned something, you had 2 trades. Now look at what you've got. Your balance is, 0, hands up, everybody's got 0 because they earned 200, they sold 200, and then you tell them the punchline, no, just compare this. You've all got 0, but you're all winners, you've all really had some very valuable trading. Compare that with Monopoly, maybe, as an example of our dysfunctional federal currency system. At the end of the game, you've got some serious winners who've got all the property and all the houses, all the money, and you've got some very sad losers who've bankrupted, gone to jail, and terribly in poverty. And sure, that does represent the world as we know it, I'm sorry to say. And so the reason I'm explaining that game first up is because quite often the penny drops there about where balance and equity comes into community exchange, and for me that's one of the beautiful things which, you know, Tim explains it so well. Tim Jenkin, when he came to Queensland as well in 2015, we all learnt so much from him. But this is to me what I love so much about community exchange, because it is a real rebellious act against the conventional economy, which is just screwing people over, and we have the majority not doing well. Actually, there's more people in poverty than there are who are rolling in wealth. Whereas here we have that business about zero. This is what I wanted to emphasise, that as Tim says, a healthy account in community exchange, a healthy account is a zero account. And so if we can keep our balance, our earning and our spending in balance and bob around the zero mark, that's what makes Let's work. And unlike money, there's no point accumulating them. And in fact, that whole principle of hoarding, earning, you can't spend until you've got them. And if you don't earn a lot and maybe rip someone off or someone else will, that's, you know, that doesn't apply to Let's. In Let's, if you're not spending, then you're not giving someone else an employment opportunity. And so there's no point sitting on those units and earning them and hoarding them, because that's just going to stagnate your Let's group. And likewise, if you're, you know, you need to be thinking seriously about earning. If you go into debit, we say there's no shame at all going into debit. It's important that people get that in their minds. If you're in debit, it's a commitment to stay in the community and keep looking for opportunities to earn. And so one more factor about that is looking back at that very first Let's group with the very first pair of people who decided to have the first trade. We'd heard about it from Michael Linton in Canada, and we thought we'd start a group, and here we all are, 2 people trade. Obviously, the very first buyer went into debit, right? No problem, no shame. Nobody said, oh, you're a loser because you're a debtor. No. And I just wanted to say that because a lot of groups, and I just looked it up and found that Adelaide Let's is one of them. They don't look at trading, your trading limits. Your minus 50 is your debit limit, and unlimited into credit, which I would like to challenge, because Tim recommends plus or minus 5,000 if you have to have limits at all. Otherwise, they should always be equal. So if you're having unlimited credit, you should have unlimited debit. And if you want to have a limit, and most groups do, I think, then make them equal. In Table and Let's, that biggest, most successful one in Australia with over 1,000 members, that one that we all hear about, legendary, they just have plus or minus 1,000 as their limits. Brisbane, we now have 2,000, I think it's at 5,000 in Sydney, or 3,000, anyway. The admin obviously goes and gives a little pep talk to someone who's spending or earning and just going in one direction only. It's time to have a little thought. Is there something we can do to help you to earn them back or spend them back? So, okay, I'll just leave that with you as a discussion point, because it's something that, you know, even existing members, we want to debate it. And to me, it's about building a culture, learning and practicing something new, something different to our regular economy, and something which is expressing generosity. That's what Let's does. It builds practices of generosity and community, the opposite to greed and, you know, that poverty thinking. So this is what I wanted to, a big message I wanted to get. I've probably used my whole time on that, have I? Can I go on?
Debit limit 200 and it can be extended.
And also, okay, we need to update on your system, because it doesn't, it says that minus 50, I looked at it last night, it says minus 50, so. Just,
it's a configuration in the system.
Yeah, I can talk to you about it later, that's fine, it's just something to be updated, that's very good to hear. So the other things I was going to say is just a few quick ideas. In Brisbane Let's has been on the rise recently. We've had 2 really major events. Having a regular trading event definitely is a basic thing which makes the difference between a successful group and a not so successful group. So because there's so many trades happen, as you would all know, by word of mouth and recommendations and just talking to each other and getting inspiration. And so at our trading days, in Brisbane we had last year in September for the Building a New Economy for Australia. That's something you might like to Google. Building a New Economy for Australia is a very interesting movement. And they had a conference in Brisbane, so we demonstrated Brislets and community exchange there at the conference. Here we had 300 people from all sorts of professions gathering in Brisbane to talk about building a new economy, and many of them had never even heard of community exchange. So we were really delighted to be able to give them something very practical where they could put their actions where their words were. And we put on a marker where we asked for the most impressive quality items as much as possible, not the second-hand goods which so often turn up, which, you know, they're interesting to trade as well, but we tried to get some good things like, you know, homemade soap, honey, some beautiful handcrafts, pot plants, and some good food. And there was definitely a spike in trading from that. And also on that event, and it was then helping, we imported some interesting things from other exchanges, which increased the trading. And we signed up the conference members. If they weren't in Brisbane, they could actually join their own local group on the day. So, and if they didn't have a local group, there was that new Australia Anywhere group, so everybody could trade. So that was definitely made a difference. And 12 months earlier, we had another event which we called Barter Town, just for fun. And it takes a lot of energy to organise these things. It looks like the Anti-Poverty Network conference could be such an occasion for you guys. Worth the effort, because it really does not only attract new members, but get the sleeping ones coming out of the woodwork and realising there's more to this. From back in the 90s, when there was such a big boom time, we've got a lot of people out there who've had a little experience with lets and then, for one reason or another, fallen away. And they don't realise what we have now with the internet makes such a difference. So these people, when they come forward and see at an event, they get re-inspired. So now, on that day, we had paper units that you pass around and have a look. This was just a bit of fun we did. We printed out we've got a 5, a 10 and a 2 here. And we had a 1 as well, the 1 unit. So this is the way it works. It was printed for 1 day only, so if you took them home that day, you couldn't use them another time. They were just going to be a souvenir on your fridge magnet. But you go to the desk and maybe withdraw 30 units from your account. It would go down on the sheet as a -30, and then you could trade. And it was just added some fun and also made it much faster at a market setting when you've got a lot of people who are just trading the units in a cash way. And then at the end of the day, before you went home, if you hadn't spent, or you keep going back and getting more until and then you trade, cash in your leftover ones so that the debit actually represented what you spent. But that's just an idea which we've done a couple of times, and yeah, it was very popular. At our trading days, I've always emphasised circle time. If you actually have make the time to sit in a circle and each person introduce themselves and say what they're mainly offering and what they're wanting, it's so surprising how the discussion just fires everybody up. You're tempted to go around a second time because it really jogs people's minds about, oh, that's right, it's something else that I was going to do. Or they want to answer you know, so-and-so has a trailer and someone else can do X, Y, Z. And the surprising thing also is for new members, they come to you afterwards and they say, look, the penny's just dropped. Now I see what it's about. Now I can really imagine how I'm going to get involved just from hearing that conversation. So I do recommend doing it. Sometimes you know, we kind of forget because the trading's happening. Drop-off points and courier system is really great. When I moved from far north Queensland, a rural area, into the city, the capital city, I had a big question mark about how it might work, where the differences lie. People say it's better suited to the rural area where people are more in community and maybe more in need. I'm disputing that, you know, Adelaide Lex is so successful, and now Brisbane's too. I think you're number 2 and number 3 or something in the state, and we're number in the country for activity, trading activity. At the moment, I think Adelaide Lex is the 3rd most active, and Brisbane's is the 4th. And so, you know, I think we can satisfactorily say that it works in the city. There's community-minded people everywhere, and we all have a need to complement our dollar budget. But here's a question about the drop-off points and what do you do about security? So that could come up in discussion time. I don't know, I still don't know myself whether there's more crime and people might be worried about if you had a cupboard at the back of the shed for people to come in, members to come in and pick up the parcel, whether there's a problem there. Okay, only a couple more things. One of the things which has happened just recently, just in the last couple of months in Brisbane, is we've got an influx of food for trading. It's actually rescue food. We've got a couple of people who are going out doing what they call skip dipping or dumpster diving, rescuing, and they go to beautiful health food shops. We have this most wonderful quality food, coconut yogurt and organic granola and chocolate and beautiful fresh fruit and veg, which is got to be eaten immediately. And yes.
If we decided to join this next party network, they actually had a trading table of stuff that we dumped in the last conference. So
yeah,
I'm just thinking it was something, it was just a bit of a point to.
Yes, so I get a hamper every other week now, and I spend over 100 units most weeks on this fantastic hamper, and that's like what's in season, which means what's chucked out.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that makes a big difference in our weekly budget. I just mention that because that's something we don't necessarily have access to farms in the city, but we do have access to skip bins where there's a criminal wastage. Just for example, one bottle of olive oil breaks and the whole carton gets thrown out because there's a bit of oil on all the bottles. And so these dumpster, intrepid divers, they call themselves, the divers go and, they wash the 23 bottles and can hand them on through lets for lets units. Same with pasta sauce and any number of things, even like those pre-packed pears. One has a spot on it or a rotten patch, and the rest of the packet gets thrown out. It's in the shop, in their wisdom, they find it cheaper to do that than to repack them. So, I'm talking about really good food, which shouldn't be going to the dump causing environmental problems. Only got a couple more quick points. We do have mediators. We're trying to build on that as those Sue mentioned, let's groups close down for personality clashes, and little traders' disputes sometimes can build up to be big festering issues. And so something that's worked very well in table outlets is a couple of well-meaning councillor-type members who volunteered to be mediators, and it stops the burnout for the poor admin who don't really want to have those issues on their desk. And so often it really is a small thing can be nipped in the bud when somebody needs a bit of a pep talk and some confidence to ask for, please could I have a refund because that thing wasn't what I expected. Or someone can listen to you and you want to have a bit of a gripe. Sometimes that's all it is really. Those little problems that can come up, and they can come up anyway. Did I just switch that off?
No, it's still set.
Okay. So as you know, it's buyer beware. It's like Gumtree anywhere else, but little things can come up, and we do find that if you can appoint some people to do that mediation, you rarely have a big issue. These things can be smoothed, and everyone's happier for it. Okay, my last point is trying to teach everyone to be a broker. We're always thinking, could we have an admin officer whose job it is to do some brokering and to try and look through the offers and see how they can match the people who want to do that work. But if we all take some of that responsibility, and we can do that to recruit new members, we can think about our businesses, can think some of our suppliers, some of our customers, they would benefit from being in lets, or even just personally, when you're looking, you can't find what you want in lets, so you get it through the yellow pages, and before you pay them the dollars, just talk about lets, tell them if they'd like to join lets. I'll be your first customer, I'll pay you, even if it's 50% in lets units. Explain to them the benefits, but the important thing I want to emphasise is follow up afterwards, and what did they spend their units on, ask them, what do you want? And then just do a few calls around, because if you're an existing member, then you maybe know the system better and you know people, and you can say, well, actually, so-and-so does do lawn mowing, and I can get them, I'll ring them for you and see if I can get that to happen. If everybody did a little bit of that, takes responsibility for their trades and where those units go to, and likewise when you sell something big, how are you going to earn those back? What can you do? Is there any chance you could come along and help with? Or, if we all helped in that way, I'm sure that would boost trading, and it's a way where we can increase numbers as well. So that's enough. And I just was going to put those ideas out there, and perhaps we'll have some time later on for discussion, or should we do it now? Any questions now?
Good question. With those big trading units, did you find there was any evidence that Let's as a system kind of boosted membership, or that people, the trading was more active? Because it sounds like you've had quite a lot of events where you've had all the systems actually, or you've had at least one event where you've had all the systems in Queensland come together in one event. And I don't know that we've tried that here, or sometimes we have. So I'm just curious about how that the system in the way to actually have all the systems in a particular region come to a trading event.
Yes, we had those two events that I was mentioned. The first one was really only Brisbane-wide, but last year's conference, where we had visitors from interstate, it is definitely beneficial, just because you get the opportunity to share like this, as we do today. It's always valuable to get input, but also some different items to trade is good. Just in far north Queensland, when that little tablelands group began to grow and then encompassed all of the city of Cairns, we always assumed that Cairns would break away one day and do their own thing and become their own small group. However, eventually it became clearer and clearer there was no point at all in that, because we had a very functional admin. Why duplicate it down the hill for a small group that's starting out? It's only going to be a problem for them. And so as that group has grown, it goes as far north as Mossman, as far south as Tully. It's a very large region. And Brisbane's also now is just, Gold Coast is pretty much fizzling out, and I suspect that those people will just join Brisbane. And we go quite far north. I'm not sure if this is exactly answering your question, but I do think there's plenty to be gained by just amalgamating small groups, or at least trading together as much as possible. We don't want to have balance of trade issues between a small group and a large group, where one is constantly buying and not buying enough to offer. I would certainly say around here where you have more than one group, getting together is going to be a very positive thing. Yes, I'm sure I answered very well. Any other questions?
Do you have insurance?
Insurance? No, we don't. Isn't that interesting? We are in fact incorporated. There aren't very many exchanges in the country that are incorporated, and I think that means that puts us in a category where we could get insurance, but it's always so expensive, and we're always looking for a venue that will cover it when we have an event. We just basically strictly stick to a venue that has their own insurance and will let us in. So, yeah, because the cost of it is in dollars, that's basically the problem. The dollar cost just doesn't suit our budget. No. Any other questions?
Is that something that could possibly happen on a national level, though? I suppose there's not a couple of organisations who, what they've done is they've got national insurance and all the people who are affiliated with that body. So I think they all pay maybe 100, 150 a year, and so they basically cover what is the national insurance nationally. Look, it is unwieldy, but I think there's. Sometimes it's a benefit to have.
Gone that way, that it comes up pretty much every time we get a group gathered like this. And so, if anybody ever has an actual concrete proposal, an insurance company that looks like it's going to have a fair deal for us, do put it to AusCES, because we would definitely be looking at it. Is that a good answer, Annette? Is that what you'd say?
If we were more.
if we were an org.
The national org is not even an org.
Oh, okay, so it's the issue about having a corporation or,
We're not even we're unincorporated Facebook group. So we can't, we have to actually become a proper organisation. But it's appealing, I understand you feel like
yeah, I know, it's just, it's because unfortunately more and more organisations when they set things up, they're being asked to take out insurance and, I like, just know that some, that's just one body I know about, that's how they got around to them, took out quite a large package of insurance that was a national, so everyone in each state was part of the basically paid. So and I think it's about, it costs maybe 200 a year, which I mean, if you haven't got it, like, it's still a lot cheaper than trying to take it out.
For outlets, we come under the auspices of sustainable communities. So it's not actually costing outlets a dollar value. So other groups may be able to find a like-minded organisation that would be happy to do that.
Any other questions or comments? I think I might have helped